Deep inside an enchanted forest, where the snow glittered like a blanket of powdered stars, and the ancient pine trees whispered secrets to the wind, stood a place of pure magic. A place that appeared only once a year on the very last day, December 31st. It was called the Library of Brand New Beginnings. The library itself was a wonder to behold, built entirely of crystal that seemed to breathe with its own inner light. Its walls shimmered with a soft, shifting rainbow glow, and its tall, arched doors chimed with a sound like tiny bells whenever the winter wind passed through. Inside, the magic was even more breathtaking. Endless shelves rose high into the vaulted ceiling, holding thousands upon thousands of beautiful books, all of them completely blank. These weren't ordinary books, you see. They were waiting to be filled with the hopes, dreams, and resolutions of children from all over the world. Each empty page was a promise for the year to come, a new friend to be made, a scary shadow to overcome, a new skill to learn, or a simple act of kindness to share. But on this particular night, something was terribly, dreadfully wrong. The librarian, a tiny gnome named Barnaby Bookmark, was in a state of complete panic. He scurried back and forth between the crystal shelves, his little pointed hat all crooked and his round spectacles fogged with worry. "Oh no, oh no, oh nitrogen monoxide!" he squeaked, his voice a tiny whirlwind of distress. The ink of inspiration, the very source of all new beginnings, had frozen solid. This wasn't just any ink. It was a glowing, silver blue liquid that held the magic to write every child's new year into existence. And now, the bitter winter cold had seeped into the library and turned the precious ink into a stubborn block of ice inside its crystal bottle. Without the ink, no child's new year could begin. The blank books would remain blank. If the clock struck the final stroke of midnight without the ink flowing, the world would be trapped, stuck repeating the old year over and over and over again, forever. Meanwhile, just outside the edge of the enchanted forest, two children named Mila and Theo were supposed to be in bed. Instead, they were bundled in their warmest coats, giggling as they built a lopsided snowman under the bright moonlight. The snow crunched satisfyingly under their boots as they played, their laughter echoing in the crisp, cold air. Suddenly, a strange, shimmering glow pulsed from between the trees. It wasn't the moon, and it wasn't a star. It was a soft, inviting light that seemed to dance and beckon them closer. Curiosity won over caution. Hand in hand, they tiptoed towards the light, their breath making little clouds in the air. Deeper they went, until they stepped into a clearing and gasped. Before them stood the magnificent crystal library. Drawn by an unseen force, they pushed open the chiming doors and stepped inside. Barnaby the gnome looked up, his tiny jaw dropping in astonishment. "Children, you can see us!" he exclaimed, his eyes wide behind his spectacles. "That means you still believe. You still believe in new beginnings." Wasting no time, he explained the terrible situation. His small hands trembled as he held up the frozen bottle. The silver blue liquid inside was as still and solid as a glacier. "There's only 1 hour left," Barnaby said, pointing a worried finger towards a magnificent clock floating in the air, its hands and numbers made of pure, twinkling starlight. "We must warm the ink, but my magic alone isn't enough. It needs real warmth, the warmth of the living world." Mila and Theo looked at each other, their eyes filled with determination. They weren't just playing in the snow anymore. They had a mission. "We'll help you," Mila said bravely. "What do we do?" Theo asked, his voice steady. And so the two children and the tiny gnome set off into the snowy woods, carrying the precious frozen bottle. Their first stop was beneath a huge fallen log, where a family of rabbits was huddled together for warmth. Their soft fur was a cozy, breathing mound in the darkness. "The warmth of family," Barnaby whispered. Gently, Mila and Theo cupped their hands around the crystal bottle, holding it close to the nest of sleeping bunnies. They shared in the rabbits' cozy, sleepy warmth, hoping it would be enough. A tiny crack appeared in the icy ink, but it wasn't nearly enough to melt it. The ink remained stubbornly frozen. Their time was running out. They hurried on, their boots sinking into the deep snow. Next, they discovered a fallen star, half buried in a drift. It had tumbled from the sky and still pulsed with a faint, hopeful glow. "The warmth of a fallen dream," Barnaby murmured. They carefully placed the bottle next to the star. Its soft, celestial heat bathed the crystal in a gentle light. Another crack spiderwebbed across the surface of the frozen ink, and a single shimmering drop of liquid silver blue appeared, but then froze again almost instantly. It was still not enough. The starlight clock back in the library was ticking away the final minutes. Despair began to creep into Barnaby's heart. He wrung his little hands. "It's no use, it's no use. We're almost out of time." But Mila, watching the faint glow of the fallen star, had an idea. She turned to Theo, her face lit with sudden understanding. "Wait," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "What if the ink doesn't just need any warmth? What if it needs the warmest thing of all?" Theo's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. "Hope," he added, his voice a soft echo of hers. "And wishes for the new year. That's it." Barnaby squeaked, his whiskers twitching. "The warmth of hope itself! Back to the library, quickly!" They raced back through the trees, the chiming doors swinging open to welcome them. With only moments to spare before midnight, they gathered around the central reading table. Barnaby held the bottle and the children closed their eyes. They didn't just think their wishes. They spoke them aloud, their voices filling the vast, silent library. "I wish to be braver this year," Theo said clearly, "so I can stand up for kids who feel small. I wish to be kinder," Mila whispered, "and share my lunch with someone who is sitting alone. I want to learn how to paint a sunset. I want to make my grandpa laugh every single day." With every word, with every pure and heartfelt wish spoken into the cold air, the ink bottle began to glow. It started as a faint pulse, then grew brighter and warmer, radiating a brilliant silver blue light that filled the entire room. The warmth wasn't just heat. It was the feeling of a promise, the energy of a fresh start. The ice inside didn't just melt. It dissolved into a swirling, magical liquid. Barnaby let out a whoop of joy. He quickly uncorked the bottle and dipped his long quill pen inside. Just as the starlight clock began to chime the first stroke of midnight, he touched the quill to the first blank book. The ink flowed freely once more. It spilled onto the empty pages not as mere letters, but as glowing, living words, writing themselves across the books in a cascade of shimmering light. The library sparkled brighter than it ever had before, humming with the power of a million new beginnings. The children watched, mesmerized by the spectacle. Then, as the final chime of midnight faded, they blinked. In that instant, they found themselves standing back in the snowy forest, right where they had been playing. The crystal library was gone, as if it had never been there at all. The only evidence was the feeling of warmth still lingering in their hearts. The next morning, as the sun rose on the first day of the new year, Mila and Theo woke up feeling different. They felt lighter, brighter, and filled with a quiet, powerful feeling they hadn't had the day before. It was hope. And somewhere deep in the enchanted woods, unseen and unheard, the library of brand new beginnings closed its magical doors, its work complete for another year, patiently waiting for the next. New Year's Eve and the next generation of hopes and dreams. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more magical tales. See you next time.